I just wanted to introduce myself. We'll be kind of passing the mic back and forth. My name is Amanda Scharschel, and I'm a peer consultant.
And I'm Philip Berquist. I'm a peer consultant as well. Our first session this morning is talking on mentoring language. And I know that in this room we have a huge variety of people and backgrounds with mentoring language. How many people have taken cognitive coaching? All right. So we've got a wide range of skills in this room. So whatever we're going over today, we're going to be kind of hitting the tip of the iceberg as far as mentoring language and cognitive coaching. This is an approach in your conversation of when you meet with your mentee. It has been proven to be very, very effective. And so regardless of your background with cognitive coaching and mentoring language, just take note of things that you can work on with your mentee when you sit down and have discussions with them. So the first part of mentoring language, when you are sitting down with your mentee, sometimes it is for 3 seconds. Hopefully we can sit down for at least 20 minutes and really see how things are going with them. Personally, making that contact with them, building that rapport, but also how things are going in the school, of course, right? How they're doing. So the first thing that we want to do is attend fully. What does it mean? We are making the shift fully from speaker to learner. This is so hard because as a mentor, okay, I'm the one that's helping them and I'm guiding them and I'm giving them all of the answers. When we are attending fully, we are stopping that inner dialogue. So you guys all know what that inner dialogue is. When your mentee comes up with a problem like, okay, oh my goodness, this da-da-da-da-da-da, and you're like, okay, they can do this, and this as they are speaking. You've got all the right answers, and they probably are the best answers for that can probably solve that problem, right? But when we are attending fully, we're stopping that inner dialogue and truly watching and truly listening to what they're saying and how they're coming to you. So we're focusing solely on the other person. Part of attending fully is we need to align ourselves with that person that we're seeing, that we're meeting with. How are they coming to you physically? Are they tense? Are they moving around? Are they calm? You need to attend fully to how they're coming to you physically. Are they breathing heavily? Are they talking really, really fast? Are they a little down? Are they confused? Are they not make eye contact with you? Attending fully isn't just being there. It's seeing how they're interacting with the situation. What just happened 2 seconds ago before they came? What's been happening? So take the whole thing in. Take the environment in. How does it feel when they come to you? That's what attending fully is. Stopping that inner dialogue and truly listening and watching how your mentee is coming to you. Now, part of that attending fully is turning these things off. These are called the eye listening. This is stopping that inner dialogue. That personal referencing. Okay, when I went through that same situation, this is what I did. Again, there may be time for that, but when they are coming to you initially, you are watching and you're taking it all in. You're taking them fully in. We're turning these things off. Personal curiosity, bringing something up like, oh yeah, I wonder about if you could do this because when I did this, that's bringing the focus off of them and back on you. And what happens is they start comparing their situation to your situation, how you handled it so gracefully. So now they can't move forward because they're comparing themselves to you. Personal certainty. Again, it starts making division in an answer. So they don't have it all together yet. They've got questions, but when you're certain about how to do something and you've already got it in your mind of how to do it and you give it to them, they may not have the tools to move forward with that. Amanda?
I was just thinking about a mentor-mentee conversation I had this week with a teacher who's a mover, and I was trying really hard to attend fully with my body language, so every time he would shift, I'd shift. Every time he would scratch, I'd scratch, and I was trying to mirror what he was doing, and he moved a lot. So attending fully was really important, but at that time I was just trying to match things. It should be really comfortable, right? If they make subtle movements, one of the things that we can do is try and make that subtle movement after them, crossing our legs or even shifting our body towards them, just to show them that we're open to what they have to say. So Philip started with attending fully, and I'm going to talk about the 3 stances of coaching, but I kind of want to feel the crowd very quickly with a fist of 5. So 0 is my knowledge is pretty low, and 5 is my knowledge is very high. So if you have cognitive coaching background, you might be at a 5 on some of these, but I kind of want to pace myself and figure out how long I need to take on each stance from the audience's reaction. So thinking about the first one, consultation. If that's familiar to you, very familiar, less familiar, just show me a fist of 5. Fantastic. What about collaboration? Collaborating with someone else. It's a little higher. We do that a lot, right? And what about this last one, coaching? Coaching someone. We're all over the map on that one. Awesome. Well, we do take these 3 stances, and I'm going to go through each one just a little bit more in depth, but I want you to notice in your notebooks where these are at too. So if you want to open your mentor handbook to the conferences and observations tab, you have a resource from the book, Mentoring Matters. So you're going to flip back past the norms for agendas, and you're looking for a page that has 3 columns of notes, 1 for consulting, 1 for collaborating, and 1 for coaching. And this document, we're not going to go through this document, but it's very interesting. It shares with you some cues and some actions and some considerations to think about when you are in each role. So we wanted to point it out that that was there. The first one that we are going to go through is consulting. So consulting is when we are sharing information such as policies and procedures, curriculum and content, or effective practices. This is the easiest one for me as a mentor to jump to because you're the veteran, right? So as Philip was saying earlier, we've experienced what they've experienced most of the time. Been there, done that attitude, and we have all of these things that we can tell them that have worked for us. And sometimes that's called for, and sometimes it's not. So a caution with consulting is that if you overuse this, let me jump to just be professional and tell them what they need to do, they could become highly dependent on us as the mentor. Instead of becoming personally self-reflective and learn how to solve problems when we're not around. It's okay at this point to be in this stance if your mentor is floundering. Can I see a raise of hands if you have a mentor that you've worked with in the past that just needed you to consult at that time? Has it happened? It's happened to me already this year. There are lots of things that new teachers, new counselors, new SPED support, they don't know, and this is where this stance comes in. And it's okay. The second stance is collaborating. And this, to me, is something that we do often in our jobs, whether we are team planning or whether we're meeting with our CST about kids. It's time to co-develop ideas and approaches to problems. We co-plan lessons. We can sometimes bring some student data out and together analyze that data and think about our next steps. And we also might use some alternate paraphrasing and summarizing, so both you and your mentee would be doing those 2 pieces of mentor language. The caution here is really to monitor your own actions. It's really easy to be excited about what you're planning together, and then your enthusiasm may override the intention to co-create the ideas. This is more of let's sit side by side. Also, I noted we use terms like we and us rather than I and you, just to put a spin on it with your mentee that this is really something we're doing together. And the last one is coaching. This is where we want to spend most of our time with our mentees. The things that I think about when I'm thinking about coaching is when I'm done with my year with my mentee and they start next year in their second year, I want them to be self-sufficient. I want them to be confident. I want them to know that, yes, they're still going to experience things that they never had before, but just because I'm not there doesn't mean that they can't problem solve on their own. I want to build them up so that later they can handle situations that come their way. This really creates opportunities for them to grow professionally because the conversations are so structured with coaching. It's also a life skill. I hope that one day, because I was coaching them well, that they in turn can coach someone else well and be that person for somebody else. Also, it helps them grow in reflection. And the caution here is, I think some of us may have experienced this before in other aspects of our life, but if we're coaching and they don't have the toolbox already, it can become very frustrating. So that situation to me is when it's okay to consult. If we're dealing with a tier 3 behavior, or if we are dealing with brand new curriculum and they didn't student teach here, or wherever they were before didn't have the same policies and procedures, and I'm trying to question them and coach them, they're going to give me those deer in the headlight looks and have blank space up here. So at that point, I don't want them to become frustrated. So just make sure when you're coaching that they have enough of a knowledge base to work through those questions with you. So there are some more components of a coaching conversation, and Philip is going to talk about those now.
Our goal is to move from that consulting to the coaching conversation throughout the year. Now, we know like at the beginning of the year, our brand new teachers, our mentees, have a lot of questions, and sometimes they don't even know the questions to ask, right? But you are going to need to consult on things. They're going to need to know how to get on ASOP. They're going to need to know how to structure their schedule for the library, how to fill out a guest card. Those aren't things, so how do you think you should fill out a guest card? That's not going to work. They need to be consulted at that time, again, to give the tools that are needed to later have a coaching conversation. So coaching is all about asking questions, attending fully, and getting more information so that they can process and find out the answers on their own. So as the year goes on, we want to move more from consulting to collaborating to that coaching so that they can be empowered to come up with those answers on their own. So we're going to go over 3 of the coaching conversation components right now. And again, we're going to just hit the tip of the iceberg with these and start thinking about one of these, or if you can hit all of these, what's something that I really need to keep in mind or try out with my mentee the next time I meet with them. The first one is attentive silence or pausing, paraphrasing. The next one we're going to look at real quick is probing. The first one, attentive silence. So when you're in a conversation with your mentee, you are literally pausing and being silent after your mentee makes a statement or a question. Okay? Now, we don't need to make it a big, long, awkward silence. This is really about if you're attending fully, you're noticing cues. Maybe they've got something else on their mind, but it also acknowledges them. Think about that inner dialogue. You're ready for them to stop, and you're going to attack them with all the knowledge that you've got. Give a pause in that conversation. This shows them that you're acknowledging them and that you are listening to them. This also gives the mentee the opportunity to add anything else that they may add. When you see them looking up, they may be needing to finish a phrase. Don't pounce on it yet. Give them time. So that attentive silence or that pausing is an important thing to incorporate into your conversation. Now, paraphrasing. This is one of the keys to understanding truly where your mentee is coming from. In paraphrasing, the mentor is they repeat or paraphrase what their mentee has just said. So what does this do? You, the mentor, you are checking for understanding. You're making sure that your understanding is what the mentee is actually saying and feeling. A lot of times the mentee is coming to you, they don't know quite how to explain their situation, or it may sound a certain way, but it's really not where they're going. So that's why paraphrasing or repeating back what you think they've said or where they're coming from is so important, so that the rest of your conversation can be that time for finding out what the next step is. This really is one of the more crucial points in a coaching conversation, because this will set the standard for how the rest of that conversation goes. Here's an example of a paraphrasing conversation. Sitting down, you're attending fully, and your mentee said, I really can't keep up with all this planning. So if I wasn't attending fully, I'd jump on and say, okay, this is what you do. You get your lesson plans out, and I do this every Thursday night. I have coffee right here. I have the music going. This is what you need to do. Put everything out, and your teacher's edition, your guest cards, whatever you've got, and spend an hour, and that's all. If you do that, you may have missed what they're really needing. So instead of jumping on and giving that consulting, the next step could be paraphrasing. So you, the mentor, pause real quick, acknowledge, and say, so you're overwhelmed with trying to find time to get all of your lesson plans done. This is when they can check and see, is that really my problem right now? So the mentee actually says, no, I'm really trying to find more resources for my intervention group. So what we did was funnel a big, broad issue, a problem, and through paraphrasing, we narrowed it down. And so this was the real problem here. So when lesson planning, you just don't have the resources to plan for your intervention group. Yes. So that's where you can hit it. A lot of times when we go into consulting, our mentee and we haven't built that rapport yet, or they may just not feel comfortable with really acknowledging what the real issue is, and they'll just go on with, okay, I'll try that on Thursday night and put the music on and try to lesson plan, when it really wasn't the issue that they had. But sometimes they just don't want to acknowledge it, all right? After we have paraphrased and we've really gotten the issue down, then we can start asking questions that promote thinking on the mentee's part. What does that do? It promotes personal reflection. What's worked in the past? The mentee is empowered to problem solve based on past experiences. So at this point in the coaching conversation, have we consulted at all? Have we given them any answers to anything? No. We've attended fully, and we've tried to gain understanding for where they truly are. Then we start asking questions to see if they do have that toolkit to draw from. If they don't yet, then we get to consult. But the coaching conversation is truly about understanding where they are and how we can meet them where they are. So Amanda and I are going to have a model conversation. Yeah.
I'm going to stop for just a minute. We're moving so fast here. On your tables, you guys have a mentor flip book. If you would find that and make sure everybody has one. All of the tools, the mentor language that Philip has gone over, paraphrasing, probing for specificity, pausing, attending fully, all of those are actually in this little flip book. And I don't know about you, but I love to look back at these types of things. They're all in one neat little package. So make sure that you have those out. We'll also be encouraging you to look through these pieces of language as Philip and I have a model conversation. So some things that we haven't gone over today, and that's okay because there's more mentor training to come this year, are positive presuppositions and mediational questions. So we're going to put those on the back burner for now. There are resources in your binder for those two types of mentor language, and we're going to focus on what Philip and I have gone over this morning so far. So we're going to have a model conversation really quick. How many of you have ever been in a scripted, awkward conversation before? Don't judge us too much, okay? And we're keeping our papers, so don't judge us on that either.
All right, Amanda, well, thanks for meeting at the time we set.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So we're like almost a quarter into the new year. What's something that's going well right now?
Well, this weekend, I didn't have to call security because I was going to my building for the third weekend in a row. I actually got to spend some time with my family, which was nice.
Good, good. So that's great. You were able to stay home over the weekend. You feel everything's going well right now? That's great. What are some of the struggles or a current focus that you may have right now?
I really don't have any. I think that everything really has gone pretty smoothly, especially these past couple weeks.
So you feel that everything is going good. What are some specific things that are going well?
Well, let's see here. I think student behavior in general has gotten better. I've worked on it. The students have worked on it. I've been pretty clear with my expectations. So student behavior, I guess, has improved.
Okay, so student behavior, and you've seen definitely an increase in positive student behavior, right? That's great. What do you think some reasons might be why their behavior's improved?
Specifically, I have this awesome support person that comes in the morning for my third hour. And she is self-motivated, and she is Johnny on the spot with whatever I need. And I have two kids, Johnny and Lydia, who really struggle, and she seems to be able to manage their behavior without me having to do that very often. So it makes third hour run really smoothly.
Right. So it sounds like the support staff in the morning has really helped with those students and student success and behavior especially. So what might be some reasons the afternoon isn't going so well?
I think it's a para issue too, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I have a new para in my fifth hour, which is another CWC hour for me. So I have some kids who need some extra attention. And she is just not doing her job. She interrupts my lessons often. She takes phone calls in my classroom, and I know she's checking her text messages. And she really doesn't pay attention to the specific kids that I would really want her to help me with their behavior.
So it really sounds like you're frustrated with the afternoon because of the way, really how this person is acting in your classroom.
Yes, she's not even self-motivated like my morning person. She'll just stand there and stare at me, and in my head I'm thinking, please go help these kids, please go help these kids, but she really doesn't do anything.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like she's been coming in daily and hasn't been attempting to support you with classroom management. I wonder, since she is new to the building, right, if she knows your expectations for the classroom, what ways have you communicated those expectations with her?
Well, I use champs. I mean, she should be listening to my champs, right?
Yes. Yeah, and that is great that you're using champs. In what ways could you communicate your detailed expectations in the classroom beyond champs and maybe establishing a relationship with her?
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Philip. I really haven't had the time to really sit down with her and go over my expectations. And sometimes, because she's late coming to my room, I don't think she hears my champs. So, I mean, that gives me something to think about, really, is finding some time to sit down with her and covering my expectations for that fifth hour, the kids that I'd like her to focus on, what the champs are, and get into more specifics of what she can do to help me with behavior management.
Right. So, we've seen that your support in the morning has a lot of experience and a lot more than your PM support probably does. Sounds like also you don't really know her that well since she is new. Thinking about the things we did to establish like our relationship, what might be some things that you could do to be proactive on your part to be a little bit better in making a trusting relationship with her?
Well, that makes me think of also what I did with my kids to build relationships, and it was really just a lot of questions to get to know her and making her feel like I was interested in her past her support in my room. So I think that's my next step.
Was that fairly natural? Okay, all right. So what I'd like for you to do is just talk with someone next to you or as a table. What are some of the mentoring tools that you did see? And maybe just start that conversation. I really would like to try and do fill in the blank next time that I meet with my mentee. So take a few minutes, talk with your table or a shoulder partner.
It's really valuable, isn't it, listening to peers who are filling the same role as you and the things that they're experiencing. I would love to be in on your conversations because our audience is so different this year than in the past. I mean, we've got some people out in our crowd today who are supporting counselors and who are supporting various exploratory teachers and SPED teachers and Reg Ed, and you guys all bring a lot to the table. So I'm hoping your conversations with the people at your table or your peers was enlightening. Would anybody like to share something, what type of mentor language they might have heard Philip use as he was coaching me through my para problem?
I liked how, I mean, there's a lot of paraphrasing, but when you said, he asked how everything was going, you're like, oh, I think it's pretty good because I get that a lot. But he probed down, so tell me why you think things are going well, and it really got down to something that you could discuss.
For sure, I was a little bit standoffish, wasn't I? Everything's great. I don't want to put off sometimes if I'm the newbie that everything's not so great. So you're right, he probed for specificity, wanted to know what exactly was great, and then uncovered through that questioning a problem I was actually having. Awesome. What else? What other type of language did we hear? One more person? Did you guys hear paraphrasing? Did you guys see him attending fully to me? Was he modeling body language? He was. You did a great job. Great mentor. Normally, we would not be in director's chairs in front of a crowd of people. You would be with your mentee one-on-one using a mentor conversation log. This is in the same section as those 3 stances. It's also in the tools section of your binder, and there are quite a few extras back there in case you didn't want to go back and make copies. So if you'll just find this for just a second. It's a quadrant, basically, and there are 4 boxes to this quadrant. What's working, current focus, challenges or concerns, the mentee or teacher or counselor's next steps, and then also the mentor's next steps. Something we've done this year that will be new if you've attended mentor training in the past is we've put together a tip sheet for our conversation log. It's in the middle of your tables, and it's hole punched, so you can kind of place it with your tools. And I'm not going to take the time to go over this, but I did want to kind of review what some of these boxes were. Is there anybody in the crowd who's unfamiliar with a conversation log such as this? So this is a tool commonly used to have a structured conversation or a guided conversation. The first box, the upper left quadrant, is what's working. And as a peer consultant team, we use this tool regularly, and our mentors in the past also use this tool. So we've kind of brainstormed some tips to help those of you who may not have used it in the past. I'm going to highlight give wait time. There's a lot of bullets in that box, but I think it's important to give wait time. Sometimes it's hard for our beginning teachers to come up with successes, especially at this point in the year. I don't know if you were able to go over this morning in the secondary session the attitudinal phases of a new teacher. You will this afternoon if you were elementary and came in a little bit later. But do you remember what time on that timeline our teachers are, whether they're in anticipation, survival, disillusionment? Where might they be right now? Survival, or they could already be at rock bottom, right? So they might have a hard time coming up with something that's going well, and that's okay. Just give them some wait time, pause, attend fully, and then if you need to, maybe you can ask them some specific questions, and those are listed in that box. The second box, the upper right, is the current focus, challenges or concerns, and my note was, do not let them jump to this right away. If you let them jump to this box right away, that puts a problematic spin on the entire conversation. Something that I circled in the bullets here was the second bullet. This doesn't have to be a challenge necessarily. It could be something that's just been weighing heavily on their mind or something they're focusing on. And also, if they are someone who's going to talk to you about things that are out of their control, trying to coach them into identifying things that they can control is important. This box can fill up very quickly with things that they will never be able to change. The box to the bottom left is the teacher's next steps. And you may have to help them, this is the second bullet, prioritize. If they have 12 things on their next steps, that's quite a bit to add to someone new's plate. So helping them either take things off or letting them know what can wait and what needs to be done sooner rather than later will take some stress off of them, especially if they're leaving with quite a few things that they need to get done. And the last quadrant is your next steps. And the one thing that I circled was the second bullet again. Try not to leave your conversation without something on your to-do list. If you're going to give your teacher 5 things to do, then we need to be doing things to support them. So if you're leaving and that's blank, reflect on how later you can go in and just double check with them, make sure that everything's going okay with the things that they said that they would do. So we're going to use this CAL, or a conversation log, as you guys are working today with a partner. And we have 26 audience members, so we have an even number. No one's going to have to share or talk to me. I'm going to want you to pair up. I'm going to have each of you take a CAL, or a conversation log, out of your notebook. One important thing to remember is if you're the mentor, you're the writer, and if you're the mentee, you're not writing anything. And you guys are going to have a chance to use the mentoring language that Philip and I went over and use this tool to have a coaching conversation with each other about how things have been going with your mentee so far. So if you have one copy of the conversation log, I want you to identify someone who you'd like to have a conversation with. And then I'd like for us to spread out around the room. It's hard to have a one-on-one conversation when we're in close quarters. So feel free to spread out around the room with your person. You might take your flip book with you if you're the mentor, if you want to reflect back on what language you're going to use. And then Philip and I will set a timer that will tell you how long each person has, and then you'll switch. You're going to have about 7 minutes each, and it doesn't seem like that's a long amount of time. But we did want to give you that preview of how much time you're going to have so that you can keep kind of tabs on each other. Remember to start with what's working. Don't let your mentee jump to what's not working. You may begin. That's a great question. Great question over here from Judy. She said, do you suggest making a copy of the CAL for you and your mentee? Yes. You want them to have a copy so they can see the next steps, and you want to have a copy so you can see your next steps. And you could probably send this to the print shop to be put on like carbon copy paper too. It is electronic, and we can make sure that we send that out to the distribution list electronically. Amy's nodding her head. We'll get that done. Thank you. We're going to wrap up our session today. So you're going to need the star stickers, and each person needs a green, a gold, and a red. And just to reflect on Philip and I's piece very quickly before we transition you over to the observation cycle, you can put these stars really anywhere. Maybe you want to put them on the flip book on one of the pieces of language that you really loved, and it was natural for you to pause, or it was natural for you to paraphrase. So here's your codes. Your green is, I'm comfortable with this skill or this idea. Feel free to put this sticker on anything. It could be the CAL, it could be the flip book, whatever you feel the best about. So for me, it might be that first box, successes. I feel good with that because I want my teachers to know what they're doing well. Your gold is something you may need to think more about. You need to slow down just a little bit. Maybe it's one of those mentoring language pieces. Maybe it's the pausing. I talk and I talk fast. I really need to think about how I can pause before I respond to my mentee. And then your red is caution. This is something I really, really need to practice moving forward. Maybe it's that making sure I have steps in my box as the mentor, or maybe it's one of those mentor language pieces that was uncomfortable or unnatural in your conversations. Philip and I want to thank you for spending this time with us this morning. We enjoyed. You guys are a very professional crowd, probably one of the most professional crowds we've ever presented to, so thank you.